Committee on Parole is called back to order. The time is 12:34. Our next case is Mr. Willie J. Ellison Jr. Mr. Ellison, would you please give us your full name and DOC number?
Willie Ellison Jr., 356139.
Thank you, Mr. Ellison. Let me explain our process to you. First, I'm going to read some information into the record. And then the board is going to conduct a parole interview with you. At the appropriate time, we will allow those persons who've indicated they wish to have input to speak. On your behalf today, you have several people here with us, as well as your attorney, I think, is on the line. Currently in our room with us is Mr. Willie Ellison Sr., who will be speaking, Rose Ellison, your mother, who is just present, and Johnny Duncan, your uncle, who is also here. Your attorney, Mr. Justin Harrell, is likewise on the YouTube. Would you make an appearance for the record, Mr. Harrell?
Yes, sir. Good afternoon. Justin Harrell, and I'm here on behalf of Mr. Ellison.
Thank you, Mr. Harrell. And we also have in opposition Mr. Randy Meyer from the Jefferson Parish District Attorney's Office. This is the matter of, and at the end of that, you'll be allowed to make a statement, and then your lawyer will close out, and then we'll go. You understand our procedure?
Sir.
You understand our process and how we're going to proceed?
Yes, sir.
Okay. This is the matter of Willie J. Ellison Jr., DOC number 356139, date of birth April the 21st of 1978. He's classified as a sixth-time felony offender. He has a parole eligibility date of March the 8th of 2023. He has an adjusted good time date of March the 11th of 2060, full term date of September the 8th of 2060. He is currently serving a 50-year sentence on the charges of possession with intent to distribute heroin, where he was adjudicated a habitual offender, possession with intent to distribute heroin, and possession with intent to distribute cocaine. Is all of that information fairly accurate, Mr. Ellison?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Mr. Ellison, your case has been assigned to Ms. Bonnie Jackson. Would you please answer any questions she might have?
Yes, sir.
Good afternoon, Mr. Ellison.
Good afternoon, ma'am.
How old are you?
45.
And how much time have you actually served on this sentence?
On this sentence here, almost 15 years.
When were you incarcerated on this charge?
I caught this case in 2007. Jefferson Parish got me in 2010 from Slidell work release.
So you were serving time on another charge?
I was serving time on an old case in Orleans Parish.
All right, but on this actual case, you've been in prison for almost 15, but you've only served about 12 years on this current charge, correct?
Oh, I think it's almost 14.
Yeah.
September 2nd.
14.
Well, yeah.
Be 30. Because what I have is 12 plus. I mean, you served 12, not quite 13. And so it's not 15. You've served about, it'll be 13 years in September.
Yes,
Yeah.
ma'am.
So it's not 15, all right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Now, your actual sentence is 50 years, so you're 12 years on 50-year sentences. Not a lot of time.
Yes, ma'am.
I've looked at your record. You've already been told your offender class, and you have 6 felony convictions, and every one of your felony convictions involve drugs. Most of them started out as distributions or possessions with intent to distribute, but you ended up pleading guilty to possession charges.
Yes, ma'am.
Now, I showed that you, in 1995, you had a possession, convicted of possession of cocaine. You were placed on probation. That probation was revoked in 1999. You were paroled and you were revoked 3 separate times on parole on that 95 cocaine charge. In 97, you had another cocaine charge. You were revoked on that one in 2003. In 2004, you had a possession of cocaine. You were revoked in 2005. In 2008, you had 2 counts of possession of heroin. You were paroled on 6/20 of 2010, and you were revoked on 10/4 of 2010. So every term of supervision you've had, you've been revoked on. So first, let's talk about, your drug offenses.
Yes, ma'am.
Obviously, you were involved in drug dealing,
Ma'am, I was a user and a dealer.
mostly a dealer. Everybody wants to say that.
Yes, ma'am.
So when did you become involved in drug dealing?
Since I was probably 15 years old.
Okay, and how did you become involved in drug dealing?
Well, first of all, started out smoking marijuana with my friends who I grew up with.
Mhm.
Started out smoking marijuana with my friends who I grew up in my neighborhood. Then it progressed and I went to following them and doing the things they was doing. It just got worse and got worse as time went on.
When did you stop going to school?
I stopped
For
going
grade. For grade,
ninth grade.
okay? And what happened that you stopped going to school in 9th grade?
Got on drugs real bad.
Okay. So, let's talk about the 95 conviction. You ended up with a cocaine conviction. You were placed on probation, given a chance to kind of get yourself together, and you weren't successful on probation. Why not?
During the time I was 17 years old and we was running around, me and the guys running around and I got caught with the drugs.
But you were on probation,
I was put on probation.
right? But then your
Drugs,
probation,
it just was taken over.
but you got revoked. My question is, judge gave you a break.
Yes,
Could
ma'am.
have put you in prison, but he put you on probation. And you got revoked. You didn't do what you were supposed to do, and so they revoked you. My question is, why didn't you do what you needed to do?
Ma'am, during that time, I was real young and I wasn't thinking in my right frame of mind back then. Ever since then, it just was a whole lot going on in the family. I was running the streets wild. I wasn't responsible for what I was doing. I had to take full responsibility for it.
But every time you got a conviction, every single time, it ended up being a revocation.
Yes, ma'am. Well, our parole code, if you're on probation, you catch another case, either you're gonna violate yourself or they're gonna violate you.
But the point is, you keep catching cases like it's a cold or something. Why did you continue criminal activity even after you've been to prison multiple times? You get right back out and you go right back to the same thing. I'm trying to understand that.
Well, it's just so much be going on. And when you're younger, you do things that you regret doing. Now that
But in 2020, you weren't younger then.
2020,
2010. In 2010, that was 15 years later.
15 years ago.
And you're still going back out and doing the same thing. Because you got revoked on October 4th of 2010 because of the new charges that you have now.
This wasn't the new charge. This was an old charge in Jefferson Parish.
Yeah. Either you're deliberately not understanding what I'm saying or you just don't understand. My point is, every time you've had a chance to get out of prison, you have gone back to committing the same crimes over and over and over again. Correct?
Correct.
And my question is, why?
Well, first of all, I never got a chance to get any help or learn or find out what triggers me to do these things. Now, since I've finished all these programs and these classes, I learned the triggers, what trigger me into going use drugs or deal drugs or whatever it takes.
So what's the trigger?
Triggers is, all right, just like recently with the parole board, I was set back 3 times. Normally, it would have triggered me to do some things that I shouldn't do, but I stayed focused and stayed positive, and I learned from that. And I listened to the tools that I learned from in the classes and the books I read and everything, and I applied them, and it kept me away from anything negative.
What program do you think helped you the most?
I'm gonna say it's several of them, but the main ones I think helped me most was victim impact and thinking for a change.
Okay, well, let's talk about victim impact. What you learned?
Learned that my actions created a ripple effect with my whole family.
Okay,
Everything that I do,
just your family?
no, not just the family, with the community too and everybody around.
Well, how do you feel about the fact that you were putting cocaine and heroin out into your community? How do you feel about that? What do you think about that?
I feel during the time I didn't have a feeling about it, but now I feel that it's bad. I feel that I was wrong for doing what I did. I take full responsibility for it. If I could go back and change it all up, I wouldn't do it.
So victim impact, and then what was the other class that
Other
think
class,
changed?
thank you for a change.
What'd you get out of that?
Got out of that I got out of that I got to think about it, think before I even react on anything that I do in life.
Okay. You have children?
Now,
How many?
one daughter,
Okay. And how old is your daughter?
15 years old right now.
How do you think your life of crime has impacted her?
Yes, ma'am, it impacted her a lot. She haven't had her daddy in her life, none of her life. So she's doing good in school, and I'm proud of her. But you know, she won't talk about it, but I know it affect her that me not being there, her just having her mom.
You got your GED while you've been incarcerated?
Yes, ma'am, I got my GED and I got a college degree.
You got an associate's degree from Ashland University, and what was that degree in?
Business and general studies.
Also, I see that you have participated in Drug Dealers Anonymous. Tell us about that, why you're enrolled in that, and what you got out of that.
That class there, I got a lot out of that. It just taught me things. And it taught me a few things about selling drugs, why people sell drugs, and the mindset that they be in when they be doing what they be doing.
Share that with me. What mindset allows a person to do that?
I think that's the selfish mindset. I think that's a person thinking about his own gain instead of thinking about how he affecting the community and everybody else around him.
I'm glad you started to see that. Also, you are in work release or not? You're in work,
I was in work release in Slidell.
and you're breaking up. Tell me.
I was in work release in Slidell,
Uh-huh.
Louisiana, on production, Boulevard, Street, I think. I was in
Why are you not in work release now?
because of the sentence that I have, and Jefferson Parish came, got me and sentenced to me what I'm in there for.
That's right, that's right. Well, when did you work at the garment factory?
Well, I work at the garment factory right now. It's my current job.
Okay. How long have you been at the garment factory?
I've been there over a little over a year, almost a year and a half.
Because we have a letter of commendation from the plant manager who says you're a hard worker and you're a model inmate. So that's, that's a good thing, and encouraged to see that. You had a write-up in 2018. You had some write-ups in 2018.
Yes, ma'am. That was the last ride I've had.
I know, but tell us about it. What was going on in 2018?
But in 2018, you know, the prison system that stopped the cigarettes and stuff.
Okay, because you had a 30C. Do you know what that was about?
That was general prohibited behavior. They had stopped the cigarettes in the prison, and I was trying to purchase some cigarettes from a guy that was on a whole nother unit. And brought to him bringing the cigarettes and things to me, he got caught with it, and he told him they was for me.
And in February, it was like February 14th of 18, you got a contraband. What was that about?
I think I got caught with a cell phone on my bed.
Okay. You're a peer facilitator for going home, staying home.
Yes, ma'am. I used to facilitate that class.
Okay, how long ago did you do that?
Did that it was before the pandemic, in 2017. Did it for about 3 or 4 years.
You've got letters of support from lots of family members who tell us good things about you. You also have opposition from the district attorney's office, Mr. Randy Meyer, who submitted a letter, and he's actually on the Zoom call today. So he has some input. So there is opposition. There's opposition from law enforcement. Obviously, given the impact of the crimes on the community. Warren Myers, what can you tell us about Mr. Ellison?
Well, Mr. Jackson, first, I'll talk about some of the good things. I mean, he has obtained his GED and associate's degree. A lot of good classes: nurturing parent, living balance, cage raised, thinking for change, inside outside dad, impact. He's done some good things. He's a Strive member here. Is as you know, our honor system. So he's achieved that. Does work in our garment factory. I knew Willie from DCI whenever I was there, Warden Turner and myself both. And he's done much better since he's been here at this facility with us. As you mentioned, he hasn't done a lot of time on this sentence, and it's also my place. I got to remind Willie that he did tell you the truth about the cell phone, but the other one, have the write-ups here because I asked him about it earlier too, and it wasn't tobacco, but also included in the package that he was having smuggled in was 2 cell phones and 12 bags of synthetic marijuana. So, I'm not happy with him for not disclosing that. I asked him about it himself, and he told me tobacco as well. So, he's coming along. He's done a lot better. It's been 5 years since he had a write-up. I have to say that, but I think he has a little work to do.
Well, thank you, Ward Meyer. I appreciate your input. That's all I have.
Thank you, Ms. Jackson. Now we'll hear from your father, Mr. Willie Ellison Sr.
Yeah,
Sir, if you would mind going up to that little podium there and giving us your name and tell us what you'd like us to know.
else. All of the else. You know, we moved in a neighborhood. And where all this going on, I don't know. I didn't know nothing about it. I just they're youngsters, kids fool around here. Doing grown up stuff. And next thing I know, he was doing the same thing. You know, I tried to talk to him about it. And I never knew, you know, that he was involved with it. And talked to him, I talked to him, didn't do no good. So, but we're good kid. Went for that. And never had trouble on him. No more than that. We got trouble with drugs. You know, I see it out there. I'm 64 years old. I mean, 84.
Different there, sir.
And you know, I've been around places, you know, around people, move here and move there. Yeah. You know, kids get back, you know, listen. When they're younger, they don't listen that. And when they get into it, you know, you into it too. Growing up, you know. I know he's a good guy. You know, with school, where he was, got his diploma, got you know, you've done good there. Why should he be down here? And I need him. I need him out here to stay with a couple of rifles. She in bad shape. I'm in bad shape. And, you know, it's our whole, we on our last days. You know, we have to help now. You know, grateful. The road, well, I appreciate it most. When he give me more trouble, I don't think he will. You know, I can't put the stick on it and back, right. We do it out here. You know, stay with us.
Thank you, Mr. Ellison. We appreciate your comments, sir. Mr. Willie Ellison Jr. Is there anything you'd like to say before we turn it over to Mr. Harrell? Oh, I'm sorry, but we have Mr. Myers that needs to speak. Mr. Myers, I'm sorry.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Randy Meyer, Assistant DA in Jefferson Parish. Yeah, I'm opposed to Mr. Ellison at the moment. You know, I was listening to what the warden says, and I like to take the warden's opinions, consider those very strongly, and he thinks he's not quite ready yet. Looking at his prison record, I would agree with that assessment. You know, he's got a risk assessment that's moderate, but it's high for substance abuse. He's had, I think he took living in balance. I think a long-term substance abuse program would help him immensely. And I think he has, you know, limited programs. I think additional programs that would allow him a better opportunity when he is released, because he will get out early one day. But I think some additional programs would really help him for when he does get out to stay out. And you know, that's what we'd like to see when he does get out, that he stays out. For those reasons, we're opposed to his request today. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Meyer. Mr. Ellison, is there anything you'd like to say to the board before we turn it over to your lawyer?
Yes, sir. Like, have a problem with my voice. Yes, sir. I would like to say thank y'all for hearing us out, hearing my family out. You know, since I've been here, I know when I was young, I did a lot of crazy things. Now I done got older, and I done learned a lot. Just trying to go home, take care of my mom, my dad, and my daughter, and be there for them. I don't know, too much else that I can say to say whatever, but I'm asking for help. Y'all can help me. I'm all right with that. That's all I want to say.
Mr. Harrell, are you ready to close out for us?
Yes, I am, and I appreciate your time. I'm going to try not to go over any of the items that have already been covered, but maybe to touch a few things that I haven't heard yet this afternoon. Of course, you are aware of Mr. Ellison's educational accomplishments, the programs he's taken. I did not hear anyone mention that he does have employment that's been offered to him. It would involve janitorial services and dishwashing at a local restaurant in Orleans Parish. I've confirmed with the restaurant owner that Mr. Ellison is welcome. I also did not hear, and perhaps it is in your materials, that Mr. Ellison does have a residency plan. He would be living with his parents if released. I've also reached out to the first 72 plus, spoken to them. Upon his release, Mr. Ellison would be welcome to begin the initiation process, the eligibility process. They would welcome him into their program. They do offer at an absolute minimum, I think it's a 9-week to 10-week program that he would have to be regularly involved in. That includes mentoring, counseling, and other forms of assistance to help him get back on his feet. They have more intensive programming as well, if those become necessary, including transitional housing, wraparound services, assistance with substance abuse problems. So there are some alternatives for him, and I have spoken to Mr. Ellison and I've spoken to his family about those alternatives and making sure that if he was released, he would have access to that. He would have support in getting to and from the places he needed, and he would have some assistance. So he's not out there trying to adjust to returning to society without assistance and support, both from his family and from folks like the first 72 plus. The other item that crosses my mind that I think is really imperative when we look at Mr. Ellison's case is his procedural legal history. I think it's relevant and it's complicated. I'm not going to go through all the details, but I think it is pertinent for this board to understand that the original plea agreement, as I believe it to be from my review of his records, both in Jefferson Parish and his extensive appellate appeals and opinions, the original sentence that Mr. Ellison was facing was a plea agreement to 2 concurrent terms of 15 years for these offenses. That sentence was conditioned on Mr. Ellison returning to voluntarily surrender himself on the date of his sentencing. He did not make that appearance on that date. He did appear a week later with documentation that his daughter, the daughter that's 15 now, who was an infant then, had undergone medical treatment at a local hospital, treatment that occurred the same day as the sentencing. However, because he missed that sentencing date, his sentence was exponentially increased. So I think it's important to understand that at some point, Jefferson Parish District Attorney's Office, Mr. Ellison and his attorney, the judge and the 24th JDC all felt that 15 years adequately served the needs of the community, protected the public, and punished Mr. Ellison for his conduct. The subsequent enhancement of that was not originally intended. Nobody felt that was necessary at first, and it has been suggested that it's even somewhat retaliatory. That's not just me saying that. I know in the many appeals that Mr. Ellison has gone through, both Chief Justice Johnson and Justice Creighton had strong reservations about the excessiveness of Mr. Ellison's sentence, calling it inhumane, calling it unconstitutional, and a great expense for Louisiana taxpayers. I say that only because I want the board to consider the possibility that maybe Jefferson Parish, maybe the district attorney, maybe the 24th JDC were correct when they considered a 15-year sentence all those years ago, and that so many additional years have been added because of one lapse in Mr. Ellison's conduct and his failure to appear for his original sentence, and notwithstanding that he showed up voluntarily just a week later. So I hope that that factors into the board's considerations in this matter. And if there's any other questions you have for me, please let me know. But I thank you again for your time and consideration regarding Mr. Ellison.
Thank you very much, Mr. Harrell.
All right, Mr. Ellison, 50 years is a long time. But you do have a long criminal history also, and it's not, it's not overlooked that. But I just feel like you're not quite ready. You have started to make a really good turnaround. You really have. You've done some good things. You're continuing to do some good things, and I'm glad to see that. But I do think you can benefit from a little bit more programming. The warden believes that there are some other programs that will be helpful to you. And so and I believe the day is coming. It's just not going to be today, because I think you have some more work to do. But my vote today would be to deny because you have a moderate risk score. You need more programs, and you have a poor supervision history. But I want you to, work with Board Meyer, accept his suggestions and his help for the kinds of programs he thinks you need to take. Get in those programs, don't get any write-ups, continue to stay write-up free, and then apply again when you're eligible. But today, for me, not the day, but I believe the day is coming.
Thank you, Ms. Jackson. Ms. Wise?
Mr. Ellison, I've listened intently, and it was just great to see your parents. They've been here all day. They even had to endure a fire alarm and all that to be here today. I am very hopeful for you. My goal is to grant, after you complete the long-term substance abuse treatment program with Steve Moore, and then continue on supervision. And I think you could, you got a high needs in substance abuse. That's something you really, really need to address. But that is my goal, sir. Best wishes to you.
Thank you, Ms. Wise. Mr. Ellison, you have one vote to grant conditionally and one vote to deny. I believe you need a little more work. I think that you need some more programs. I think you're on your way. I think you're very close. But just as Ms. Jackson says, today is just not that day. My vote likewise is to deny, but encourage you to take some programs and reapply when you're eligible. And I suspect the next time your vote will be different. But today, for today's purposes, your parole has been denied. So good luck to you.